Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. I hope everyone's doing good on this beautiful, 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 beautiful Saturday. And the rain, we could use the rain. I know I sure wanted to have it rain. It was kind of muggy, so I was really glad to see it rain. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in. My name is Janice, and I'll be your host this evening. Um, I have a special guest today, and I'm just really excited about it. His name is Pastor Chenier Alston. And he's a pastor of a church right here in Chicago. But today, what we're going to talk about is the book he wrote. And we're going to talk about the content of the book, too, and other things. The book he wrote is called Ladies, Let's Talk, Relationship Real Talk from a Man's Point of View. Now, isn't that what everybody want to know about? They want to know, straight answers from a man's point of view. I think I want the men who tune in, I want them to respond to this too. Definitely put a comment. Hopefully, maybe we'll be able to read the comment, but put a comment when Pastor Chenier comes through because he has a lot of valuable information, not only from the context of relationships, but also from a spiritual context. Speaking of spiritual, everyone who listens to my show know that every week I do a scripture. Today, the scripture is going to be from Luke chapter 16, verses 10 through 12. And it goes, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own?" This is a powerful scripture. It just highlights being faithful in the little things and allow God to prepare you for the greater things. Sometimes before God answers a certain prayer or before he has a greater opportunity for us, he has to mold us into the right character. He has to build experience in us. He has to prepare us for the things that might happen down the line. Think about Moses. He worked as a shepherd for 40 years. Now, why do you think he was a shepherd for so long? He was a shepherd because God was preparing him for a greater task. He prepared him to one day lead his people to the promised land. Moses was faithful in little, and God increased his talents. We tend to forget Romans in 8:28, where it says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." Just because something doesn't fit your agenda does not mean it's not from God. It's foolish and dangerous to think that a small assignment is not from God. God has to develop your character first to match the assignment. Our flesh never wants to wait. We want it right now, microwave. We want it to be easy and we want the greater task now. But don't ever neglect the mighty work, however small, that he may have to do. Now we're going to get right into the news you can use segment because I want to hurry up and get through this so we can talk to the pastor. The news you can use. A Chicago police officer charged with breaching the U.S. Capitol and entering a senator's office during the January 6th insurrection takes photos of himself inside the building while wearing a Chicago Police Department sweatshirt and telling someone he was going to Washington to save the nation. Carol Cheswick, 29, was arrested Friday and faces 5 misdemeanor counts, including entering a restricted building, disrupting government business, and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, with the intent to impede a congressional proceeding. Prosecutors allege in a criminal complaint that Cheswick was among a mob of people who broke into and damaged the office of Senator Merkley, an Oregon Democrat. They also say the days before he traveled to Washington to attend a rally supporting the then President Donald Trump, he said in a text to a friend that he was going to save the nation. He later sent the photos of himself inside the Capitol. Cheswick was on medical leave from the Chicago Police Department at the time he traveled to Washington for the attack. Along with text messages, he also sent photos of himself inside and outside the Capitol building. He was seen grinning and wearing a sweatshirt with the Chicago Police Department emblem underneath an unzipped coat. Wonder what's going to happen to him. One person has been killed and at least 9 others have been injured after a shooting in Chicago. The incident took place around 2 a.m. on Saturday morning in the Chatham area on the south side of the city. Chicago police said two men approached a group of people on South Prairie Avenue and started shooting. The person who died was a 29-year-old woman who was shot in the leg and abdomen. She was pronounced dead after being taken to the University of Chicago Hospital. This next story, it really bothered me. All these stories do. You know, you hear shooting after shooting. Mass shootings tends to be the norm, and now they're shooting more and more of our babies. Tyrese Tyler was the 11th child, age 15 and younger, to be gunned down in Chicago this year. Tyrese told his mother that he was having problems with some of the students. They were picking on him, bullying him, and he was afraid. His mother responded appropriately and was living in Lawndale on the west side and sought another apartment and found one in the western suburb. As his family packed to move to a safer place in the suburb, the 14-year-old boy was shot and killed in his Lawndale neighborhood on the west side on Thursday afternoon. Tyrese Taylor was shot several times around 1:45 p.m. on a sidewalk in the 1100 block of South Karlov Avenue, not far from the U-Haul van the family had been loading to move. Officers were flagged down by a witness who directed them to a rear porch where officers found Tyrese face down on the porch stairs. He had gunshot wounds to his head, his body, and his legs. Paramedics took the child to Mount Sinai Hospital, where he was pronounced dead, according to the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. This boy did everything he was supposed to do. He ran into a little trouble. He had someone bullying him. He told his mother. His mother acted responsibly, secured a place in what she thought was a safer place. And the day they were going to move, he was gunned down. Just horrifying. Another mass shooting. At least 13 people were injured early Saturday morning in a shooting in downtown Austin, Texas. Not much information is known, but two of the people injured are in critical condition. 6 people were taken to a hospital by the Austin Police Department, and the Austin Travis County EMS brought in 4 others for treatment. 3 other victims took themselves to the hospitals. No other information is known. Another mass shooting, another day in the life. A shooting in Savannah, Georgia on Friday killed 1 person and injured at least 8 others, including a baby again. A 2-year-old and a 13-year-old, police said. Around 9 p.m., officers responded to the shooting in the Fred Wessels Homes neighborhood, and officers arrived and located multiple victims. At this time, they said they have a total of 9 victims suffering from gunshot wounds as a result of this shooting. Of the 9, one of the adult victims died. Among the victims, there was a 2-year-old and a 13-year-old. Luckily, both of the babies have non-life-threatening injuries. Another story from South Kingston, Rhode Island. A Rhode Island woman who told a Black family to go back where you came from during a racially motivated tirade at a beachfront restaurant last summer was convicted of disorderly conduct on Tuesday. But the judge ruled that her actions were not a hate crime, because a hate crime would have meant an extended sentence of up to a year. Christine Longo, 34, was sentenced to 6 months of probation and 50 hours of community service on the misdemeanor charge. She was also issued a no trespass order to the restaurant in order to undergo anger management counseling and diversity training. She declined the opportunity to address the court. That time she could have apologized. She said nothing. The state's attorney general's office had alleged that her actions were a hate crime, and therefore she should have been subject to a harsher sentence of up to a year in jail. Rhode Island does not have a freestanding hate crime statute, but if a defendant is convicted of a crime, prosecutors can seek an enhanced sentence in a separate hearing by proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the offense was motivated by hatred or animus toward the actual or perceived disability, religion, color, race, national origin, ancestry, sexual orientation, or gender of that person. Longo, who is white, was at the Coast Guard House restaurant in Narragansett last June when Adati Agabi walked in to ask for a table, while his wife and 2 teenage daughters viewed the menu outside. Unprovoked, Longo used profanity, yelled, and drew attention to this Black guy, according to police. Then she went outside and told the rest of the family that Blacks don't belong here. not a hate crime, just acting bad. The teenager whose video documenting the murder of George Floyd helped galvanize a global movement over racial injustice was awarded a special citation by the Pulitzer Prize Board. Darnella Frazier was 17 at the time when she encountered Floyd, who was black, being crushed to death on the ground by white police officer Derek Chauvin, who was kneeling on the man's neck during an arrest in May last year. She filmed using her phone as Floyd begged for his life. Frazier testified about the deep trauma she has experienced ever since when she spoke at Chauvin's trial in Minneapolis in April, at which he was convicted of murder. Frazier was cited for courageously recording the murder of George Floyd, a video that spurred protests against police brutality around the world, highlighting the crucial role that citizens can play. And that's the news you can use on the Let's Talk. Now I'm excited to introduce our special guest. We're going to bring him in the studio. His name is Pastor Chenier Alston. Let's welcome him.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hey, welcome so much. We're so happy to have you. I know you have a wealth of information. I wanted to hurry up and rush through that so we can hurry up and get to it. But first of all, I think I'm going to read just a little bit about you. I want to read your bio.
Okay.
And this is going to be really brief. Chenier Alston is a senior pastor of New Israelite Baptist Church in Chicago, Illinois. He is a graduate of Moody Bible Institute, where he holds a BA in Pastoral Studies with an emphasis in pastoral care and counseling. A speaker abroad and counselor on life, Chenier Alston's motto in life is live out your purpose so that your purpose can outlive you. Become a movement and not a monument. He has also written a book. The book is titled Ladies, Let's Talk, Relationship Real Talk from a Man's Point of View. Again, help me welcome. You want me to call you Pastor Chenier, Pastor C? What do they call you?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's
All right.
all the same.
Okay. All right. Well, then I want to get right into the questions so we can start talking about the real stuff. Okay. First of all, is this your first book?
I'm sorry.
Is this your first book?
Yes, it is. My first
Okay.
one. Yes. First
What
one.
made... Go ahead.
No, I said first one I've written. I'm currently working on another one, but this is my first one.
Do you have a potential release date for the other one?
I'm looking around August or September.
Okay.
I'm praying around that time. Yes.
Okay. This next question, what made you decide to write the book and why on this particular subject about relationships as it relates to women?
Well, it started on I'm blogging about, just writing on relationship topics that were experiences that I've recently had in the past years and stuff like that, counsel sessions and my own personal experiences. Everyone's name was protected in the book, so I didn't share real names. But it started by me just posting these truths about relationship from a man's point of view. I just entitled Relationship Real Talk. And so it just caught fire and people started saying, man, you should put it in a book. You should put it in a book. And I love writing. I really do. I love it like nobody. It's business. So I was like, I don't know. I think I will do it. But then the Lord told me, he said, put it in a book. And so I decided to put it in a book and so that it can reach more people and get in more hands and really impact those who need to hear the truth about relationship, real talk.
Do you ever, since you're a pastor, do you ever preach about it in the pulpit? Do you have seminars on it for the congregation? Do you do anything else other than write it in the book?
Yes, I've preached plenty of sermons on that. That's one of the areas that I really like to focus on relationship because I think it's very key. One of the things that I know that when God created us, he didn't create us to be independent. He created us to be interdependent. So relationship is, relationship is very important. Relationship helps define who you are, helps you to grow, helps you to become who God has called you to be. We all have become what we are today because of relationships, whether it's our parents, our friends, enemies. So relationships are very important. And one of the most defining relationships in our lives happen to be our intimate relationships. And so out of a wealth of wisdom that God gave me, and my own personal experiences, or my own personal car crashes, I like to call them, that I've had, I decided I started writing, and it caught fire, and so I decided to put it in a book.
It's interesting that you said caught fire. It just triggered a memory. I was supposed to have you on my show actually a couple years ago. You probably don't remember because I know you go to many shows.
Mhm.
And I had invited you to the show, and you'd agreed to come. And I got burned out. I had a fire,
Oh wow,
and I wasn't able to do the show. And I hit you up right before it was supposed to
I
go on here.
remember that. I
And I
remember.
told you I can't do the show. My house burnt down. I don't have a place to stay. And I'll never forget your kindness. Thank you so
Oh
much. You
wow.
probably don't remember, but thank you so
No,
much.
I remember now. I remember. Wow.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
So I was a wee bit nervous when I knew you were coming today. I made sure. No, not that I thought it was going to be another fire.
Made sure all candles was blown out.
Yeah, or something. No candles. So okay, so some of the people may have read the book, maybe not. I see Glenn Murray's on here. Hey, Glenn. Could you give the listening audience a synopsis of the book?
Well, the book is really it consists of a mixture of counsel sessions, um, just regular conversations, and I think maybe three of them were my own personal dating experiences, in which um, in the counsel sessions, women came to me and asked me certain questions about their relationships, and then
What would they ask you? What was the common thread that they would ask you?
the common thread was, trying to find out why this particular cycle keeps happening to me. Why am I in keep choosing the bad guys? Why am I in a bad relationship? Why is my heart the only heart being broken? Why this person doesn't love me? And those were basically the common things. Just basically trying to define who they are. In light of the relationship they're in, and why um, this breakdown keeps happening. And so, and it's so funny when all these counsel sessions was going on. I never thought that it would become a book. I was thinking that I'm helping someone, sharing with them truth from a man's perspective, and based on the wisdom that God had given me. And so, it's a mixture of those, but it also consists of some relationships that I got myself into, and that I had some dates I had gone on, and as a result, some profound truths came out. So the book really just tells what happened in the story, and then gives you a truth about relationship. What did we learn from this? What came out of it? And some positive always came out of those tragedies, or some of those traumatic episodes.
In your opinion, would you say that? I know there's probably just a myriad of reasons that break down an intimate relationship, but would you say that one of the main things oftentimes is not only money but infidelity and cheating?
Yes, yeah, I think that that's one of the main things, but it is so interesting. The main, according to statistics, that money is the leading cause of divorce. But in relationships, outside of marriage, it's infidelity. And so people mainly break up because because of cheating. So
Interesting. Let's delve into that. Since you've counseled a lot of women, you've probably counseled men too, right?
yes.
Do you find, I know what the data basically says, but do you find an equal number of cheating amongst men and women? Or is it the majority men because of the availability of women for them?
Now that's a great question, because I was just having this conversation with some friends, and I told them, I said, a shift has taken place. Women are more. Uh, I said they are silent assassins.
Yeah, the sneak. Yeah,
That they have gotten to the point where now they've taken on the nature of a man to a certain degree. Like men, we have to admit, that was something that we engaged in constantly. If you looked at the number of men cheating compared to the number of women cheating, it outnumbered the women. But now I think that women are just more deadly with it. because like I said, you can, your woman can be cheating on you and you not know it. We always end up some way somehow getting busted, but with women, she can come home and cook your food, rub your back, crack your toes, say all types of kind of words to you, and you have no clue. So I think a shift is taking place. I think there is now. I don't want to say. I think that there are a number of women who are engaging in acts of infidelity. Especially with the expansion of social media and all these other things that are invading our relationships. I think that's what's happening now.
When you go to first marriages and you see weddings and you go to these 23, 24-year olds walking down the aisle, um, do you think it's reasonable to believe that a 24-year-old that gets married with the maturity level of most men and women at that age are going to be faithful for the duration of their lives and they could live to get 90 years old? Do you I know it's possible and we all hope for it, but do you think that's realistic in your opinion as a pastor?
I think it is. I like to be optimistic about life and about marriage, and I think it's realistic, but it all depends on what you start off with and who you start off with. One of the things that I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that you need to have a strong premarital counselor.
Mm.
One of the things that I do is that when I do premarital counseling, I partner with the couple for I tell them, I'm with you. We family now, and so every 6 months I call, check in on them. Like I bring in, it's like you bring your car in for a checkup, and I like to check on your marriage. We sit down and talk and go through, just help them navigate because marriage isn't easy. It can be a beautiful, amazing experience. But what I believe people fail to understand is that you're dealing with two personalities that have now come together, who are growing together, and who have different, at times will have different perspectives, have different emotions, different feelings, all that stuff. So I believe that it can happen. It just all depends on the level of maturity that exists in the couple.
Do you think, I don't want to say our culture, but just overall the culture has anything to do with it? A lot of times they hang around with people that are doing different things. People are in their ear telling them different things. Their family, their auntie or their uncle or their brother or whatever. Do you think that has a big impact too?
Well, one of the things I shared not too long ago in a little group chat with some it was a I'm sorry, it was a blog. I was invited to a show, and I talked about unfortunately we are still dealing with the ramifications of slavery, and
Ugh.
so the breakdown of the black family and what it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to operate, and because the reality is this: your your first level of teaching comes from your family, what you experience. Like I come from a I share my story openly with people. I come from a family that was inundated with infidelity. All my uncles, my father, that was something that was common that I saw growing up as a child. As a matter of fact, I remember as a little boy, I used to always say, I would never divorce. I would never divorce because of being little, wanting, to have that two-parent home and all that stuff, not knowing that uh, my father's actions were imprinting upon my life. And so um, those things, that happen in the family affect us. And unfortunately, within the black family, we have a lot of trauma, that's there, that still exists, that's impairing, adults. It's impairing children, and it's impairing children at an early age, but then, it's causing, dysfunction as an adult.
It's interesting that you mentioned residual effects and impacts of slavery because when you think about the black family, how it was broken up during slavery, but then after slavery, it appeared as if almost every man wanted to have a woman, wanted to have a family unit. And even when you talk about the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, it seems to be uh, that there was a higher percentage as far as black women being married. as far as Black people being in the family unit. And then it seems like after the 70s and 80s, um, with social programs and other things going on, that had something to do with a breakdown of the Black family too. Because now they're not even getting married. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying that they were married in the 50s and 60s and had a perfect life and they didn't have any issues. They obviously did, but it just seems like that the breakdown of the Black family, now people aren't even getting married.
Yeah. Well, I think the propaganda of marriage was high back then. We promoted marriage. That was the thing. When in my grandparents' time,
Yeah.
you get married and you have a family. You know, now how well structured that family, is another story. But they
Right.
promoted marriage, and we live in a culture today that does not promote marriage. It's not marriage is not viewed as the ultimate goal. The ultimate reality is viewed as something more or less the ball and chain effect. Just
Right.
get married, you're going to be incarcerated. You're not going to be able to have a life or enjoy life, because, like I said, I think once again, the expansion of social media, the integration of that into our lives has affected us to the point where, we people are now believing in what social media says than what, God's original design for us.
Interesting. And whatever happened. I mean, back in the day when you mentioned your grandparents, I think about my grandparents and uncles and stuff. And yeah, they all did want to. They all had got married, but they had their little issues too. But it seems like the role of the mistress or the side chick or whatever has been escalated in current years. Back in the day when I was a young kid, you knew about Mr. Brown had a girlfriend, but it was kind of hush hush. I mean, people knew about it, but it wasn't something that she boasted of. Now we're in a totally different era. It's almost like the mistress want everybody to know. She's wearing it like a flag, and it gives her status. Or am I just taking this too
No,
far?
no, no. You're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I just got out of conversation. I was talking to an individual who is, I would say is a side chick,
Right.
and I was trying to explain to her. She called me one day and asked me for advice, and she asked me, what's God's will for her life, and I ended up telling her, what's God's will for her life, and what's God's will for her life isn't that. I said, at the end of the day, that's not the road you want to take. And just listening to her take pride in being that, because she believes that at the end of the day, she's gonna sit on top of the relationship mountain with her hand raised. They're going to be happy and ride off into the sunset. And I had to explain to her, you really don't understand that you're just sowing the seed of destruction into your own life. That don't think that you are the cure to his cheating, but you are the appetite to his cheating. So there's a difference. You're not going to stop just because he is with you and he's sharing life, and you all having this experience, and he's still with his wife at his house. That's the thing about it. He still lives with his wife,
Oh,
and
okay.
so, but she believes that she is winning for some strange reason, some impaired reason. She believes that she's winning, and I told her, but just listening to her, I can, it's just like the excitement of it. She even brought up, well, I had a friend who was in a situation and their marriage is perfect and all this and all that stuff, and so it's just like, it's the culture we're living in. It's just like, in Rome, you do what the Romans do,
Right.
and so, it just I don't understand it. So
I got to bring this up, even though I don't agree with it at all. But you always hear about it's not in a man's nature to be monogamous, and then they go back and they talk about David and how David had all these women, and I mean, I'm not even talking about Bathsheba. I'm talking about the other 700. But and they say, this is how it was intended to be. No, I don't think God intended that to happen. But um, how do you respond to that when they say it's in a man's nature? I know people are selfish. People want to do what they're not supposed to do. Doing wrong appears to have a sweeter taste, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. And wrong is wrong, and right is right. How do you respond when they put that David thing and say, "Well, this is how men are"?
that's I tell them all the time. I said that is not God's original design. God's original design is for man to be with woman. Single man, single woman come together for marriage. His original design is for a man to have one woman. The problem, what they fail to realize, is that that was the culture that they were living in. It was a cultural norm to have, many wives. But we still see the bad effects of it. You see a Solomon who was the wisest man
Yeah.
that lived, who at the end who gave so much relationship advice. If you read Solomon's the Proverbs, you be like, man, this man really knows what he's talking about. He knew what he was talking about when he said, it's better for a man to live on the top of his rooftop than to live in the house with a contentious woman. No disrespect to it, but he knew what he was talking about. He knew what
Yeah.
he's talking about when he told men stay away from prostitutes, and he knew what he was talking about when he described the proverbial 31 woman. And yet at the end of his life, he ended up falling away from God because he had so many women, you know. And so at the end of the day, it never turns out to be something great. Abraham, when he had Sarah, that was his wife. That was, they had
Yeah.
beautiful. Then, what Hagar comes into the picture.
They agreed to it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happens? There's contention in the household, to the point where Sarah was like, "Hey, you better get this woman up out our house now,"
She got it.
So he had to literally kick her out. He had to kick he had to kick Hagar out with his son Ishmael. So it was never God's intent for us to be men of many women, but his intent and his design is for us to be men of a woman. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I combat that. I just think that's an excuse that people use just to justify their own actions. So
How do you advocate in 2021 from a spiritual realm in your church, relationship wise? How do you advocate that one for one when everything you see around you is so different? How do you advocate that to people?
well, first of all, I tell individuals that the best thing that you can do is take your time. Repair you, fix you, because in the fixing of you, it fixes your heart, and it also it fixes your mind, and it also, once your heart and mind is fixed, your eyes are fixed, so you're able to see what you want and what you don't want. It took me. I had to go through counseling, my personal counseling, to figure that out. I had to go through some level of therapy for me to understand what it is, what was going on internally with me. And, I started discovering some things within me that were broken, that was causing my heart to gravitate, my mind to gravitate to things that were not, to relationships that were not good for me. And so I think that, I think people should really take time out to get themselves fixed, because the reality is this: what this is the cycle. You're in a relationship, it goes bad, you get out the relationship, and you jump into another.
That's what they do.
And so what happens is that you have two broken people who have not taken out time to heal themselves or get some level of therapy. They jump into another relationship and they break that relationship, and so it's just an expansion of brokenness that just takes place.
So do you think that a person does things that are not moral, like cheating and being selfish and things like that, because of being broken or because of something that happened in their childhood? Should these people seek counseling?
Yeah, I think that we all have suffered some level. See, there's levels of trauma. You know what I'm saying? You know how you handle trauma and how I handle trauma is two different things. And so there are some things that, like for instance, if you never saw commitment in your life, you were growing up, you never saw people demonstrate what commitment is. The first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to be a person who lacks commitment in your life. So, for instance, I didn't know that I had abandonment issues. I really didn't know that, and it wasn't until I went through through therapy, through counseling, that I discovered that there was some abandonment issues, and it was so funny because I started to discover what my triggers. Counselor helped me see some of the triggers that were in my life, like someone to come along and say certain things that was a trigger. Not knowing it in my head, I'm not processing it as a trigger. I'm processing it as maybe some level of hope, some level of rescue. but it's really a trigger. And so, people with abandonment issues would either stay in a relationship that they don't need to be in, or they'll run away to a relationship that they don't need to be in. And so, it was one of those things where, I started discovering, and that abandonment issue started with my dad, and I didn't know that. And so, and a lot of men are afraid to admit that they have daddy issues. We always talk about women who have daddy issues, but men have daddy issues as well.
I never really thought about that from a man having a daddy issue.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point.
And it's so funny because I always tell a story about Moses. Moses. We read Moses' story. How it goes from, his mother throwing him in a basket and sent him up the river. He's rescued by, and I always call Moses the first basket case in the Bible.
That's good.
He really is. He's the first human basket case in the Bible. Because when he was born, he was special. His mother saw how beautiful he was, and there was a state-sanctioned hit on his life. Pharaoh said, I want you to kill all the Hebrew men, children. And so, but his mother saw how special he was, and to save her son, she sent him up the river, put him in a basket, sent him up the river, and as a result, he was captured by a pagan society, irreligious culture, and raised in that, which caused some level of bipolarism within him, because on the outside he's dressed like an Egyptian,
Right.
But on the inside he's a Hebrew, and so that's why he had problems when he saw this Egyptian beating on one of his brothers. He said, on the outside I'm an Egyptian, but on the inside I'm a Hebrew. But all of that started because Moses had daddy issues. Because number one, the father's role was to name the son. That was the father's role, to name the son. Moses didn't get his name from his father. He got it from Pharaoh's daughter. And so
he got his name from. Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay. Okay.
His name means to be drawn out of water. She named him. The father.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
So not only that, he's suffering from daddy issues, which created within him identity crisis. Because now he really don't know who am I? Am I an Egyptian or am I Hebrew? I'm nursing on the breast of my mother, but these people claim to have ownership over me. And so this is tragic for Moses. And so while Moses is going through all of this, because of his daddy issues, he's developing what? Uncontrolled anger issues. Now, I said Moses was the most humble man, but Moses you can be humble and have anger issues, which means that, to have anger issues, you can be a person who's humble, joyful, and all that, but when something happens, that anger comes out, and it comes out like the Hulk, which causes you to do some things that are very tragic and traumatic in both your life and the lives of other people. And I say that because when he killed that Egyptian, he committed premeditated murder, because he waited until no one was looking. And he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to kill. I'm going to take him out. Now, to commit premeditated murder, you have to be seething in anger. You have to be boiling in frustration, and all these emotions are happening. And where did this start? Where did this identity crisis start? Because his father never named him. His father didn't tell him who he was. And these individuals told him who he was, which created levels of bipolarism. And that's what happens to our young black boys when society tell them that, listen, you are this, you are the gun-toting, money to the ear as a telephone walk around, trap star. But on the inside, there's some struggle within you, because that's not really what you want to be, and that's not what you feel. And so Moses had these issues. I'm gonna just hurry up. So watch this. These issues, the key issues, anger and identity crisis, because of his daddy, came out even when he met God on the backside of the mountain. Because what happened when the Lord started telling Moses, this is who you are. You're not a murderer.
Right.
You're a prophet. What he kept saying, no, I can't even speak. I can't. All these excuses are coming up. All these issues are coming up. This same crisis. So then fast forwarding, he's anointed, he's called, all of this stuff. Moses never dealt with that trauma of daddy issues, which created moments of uncontrolled anger and identity crisis. It all came out even when, Lord, he said, people started grumbling against him, said, Lord, these people you called me to lead, he goes into prayer angry. These people you called me to lead, they acting a fool. And you want me, they saying that there's no water here. And the Lord simply told him, oh, just go out and, speak to the rock. He comes out of prayer. Watch this. His anger is still there. And those issues that he never dealt with, uncontrolled anger and identity crisis, showed up that day. And what happened? He said this. He struck the rock, because when he came out, he said, he said, you rebels. He's angry. Must we bring water from the rock? He struck the rock. And then he said, it's not you who's doing it. It's God. So now, once again, he has an identity crisis. He has uncontrolled anger. And it all caused him to miss out on a great blessing. And it all started with his father. So
then think about the number of young Black boys or young Black men that have multiple crises on top of the identity crisis, and the father not even being in the picture, and abandonment issues and all these issues, and them trying to forge a relationship with a woman. And it's amazing that, I guess it's kind of amazing that we're doing as well as we are, unless these men are going to counseling or seeking some help.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I think in the Black community, counseling used to be a badge of shame.
Yeah,
but it's not no longer. People like that, I need some help. We take our cars to get fixed, our televisions and all that stuff. We take our minds and our bodies to get fixed.
And I think men now, Robert Hazard said something, it's becoming easier for men to share our pain. And I think that's true. It used to be a time where, women, we have these sessions and we're sharing our pain with each other, and men didn't, because they were supposed to be strong. But now I kind of see a shift, and I see them doing that, and they really need it.
Yeah.
In your book, you mentioned something about women seeking revenge. Do you believe that women seek revenge more so than men when wronged? I don't agree with that. You go ahead. I don't agree with that. You go ahead.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Yes.
Oh no! Wait, hold it. Okay. So you believe that women seek revenge more so than men when wronged?
Yes, because what men tend to do, our feelings get hurt, we just leave, because we gotta protect our egos. So our thing is just take off. Let's move to the next. Women, say, because revenge is an emotional issue, and women are emotional creatures.
Oh, here we go.
So revenge is an emotional issue, because revenge is like, oh, I want to pay you back for it. I mean, and it all appears in different ways. You know what I'm saying? It's not just this woman going out and cheating on the man, and all that stuff. But sometimes it's, like I tell in the story about the young lady who was cheated on. Her husband did her very wrong. And her level of revenge is that, what I'm going to do? I'm going to get my body. I'm going to change my body. I'm going to get, surgery. I'm going to have this, because, he cheated on her with a younger lady, and, was, curvaceous and all that stuff. Beautiful.
Pretty girl, yeah.
I'm going to change how I look. And it's going to be so bad. I'm going to be so bad, so banging, that when he see me, he's going to want me, but I'm not going to, he's not going to get me. I'm not going to give in. And so as a result of doing that, trying to seek revenge, and then things didn't turn out the way she thought they were going to turn out. So she really just got her body done, carved up and injected, and all this craziness, just to try to make him, feel bad about leaving her, when in fact it didn't turn out that way. So yes, I believe women tend to seek revenge a little bit more than men do.
I can agree to the fact that women strategically plan to get back at a man who's wronged them. I mean, strategically, you're planning out what you're going to do. I don't know about having surgery and all that, because if he didn't want you, he didn't want you. I don't care how much, whatever. But yeah, I can kind of agree with that. But some men do that too.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
When they're
you have men that say, "Hey, okay, you did that. I'm gonna do you."
Yeah, and they get ticked off, and so.
But men tend to see when a man's ego is hurt, his there's one or two things he's gonna do. And he's gonna fight to recover it, repair it, or he's gonna just release whatever hurt his ego.
And what about a woman's ego when her ego's hurt? She seeks revenge. basically.
Well, now this is not for all women. I'm not saying all women, but um, my grandmother was. I never met a person like her. She was the most amazing woman I ever met in my life.
Mhm.
And she taught me so many profound principles. She was the one woman that I can read Proverbs 31, and she
Oh,
exemplified
that woman.
line for line. I mean, line for line, and it was no line. That's what she was. And she the one who really taught me, about the dangers of revenge. Because her mother,
Dangerous.
yeah, her mother taught her that. Her mother taught her. I remember she used to say, sometimes my grandfather. She told me one time my grandfather would make her mad and angry, but her mother taught her that before let a word come out of your mouth, call them a bad name, bite your lip until it bleeds.
Ooh,
That's what because she said she believed that once you put the word out there, you can't bring it back. And
that's
so that within me created this whole thing. Like when I'm in a relationship, I don't do no name call. Ain't no name call. As a matter of fact, you call me a name, that's a shut off switch for me. I
yeah.
just don't
That's
do
like
it.
I got to run from you.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't get all that name calling. So I just think that you know, revenge with women, because it's an emotional issue. You know, men, we just want to protect our emotions. So
Hmm. Okay.
anyway.
As a pastor, did these relationship talks do they serve your congregation well? Do you see benefits of it? Do you see marriages staying together? Do you see couples seeking counseling and doing some of the steps that they should do?
Yes, absolutely. It has been. I have some couples right now who testify that this things that I shared with them and I helped them with has really blessed their marriage. And now they've had to call me over to the house just recently. A couple had to call me over to the house and it converted to World War III. But sometimes it was it was just. But what's so crazy is that we'll take it converted into World War III when it really was just a little spat in the classroom. So we make mountains out of molehills. And so I think that when people take the advice and take the information, take truth, because truth is transformational. When you take truth and you apply it to your life, it transforms your life. It's just the thing about what is truth, defining what is truth within the concept or in the context of relationship and marriage. And so once they take their truth and they apply it to their marriage, I mean, I've seen it literally transform couples.
Do you think, since you think women are more emotional than men, and I may have to concede that, may not, do you think men are more selfish than women? Honestly.
Yes, yes, because I think one of the characteristics that men, because once again, emotions. Women lead with their emotions, and most of the time, their number one emotion is love and caring and compassion. Those are giving emotions. Those are emotions that open them up to be vulnerable. That extends their hands, their hearts, their help, all of that stuff. And so with men, there's a dysfunction that men suffer from. Men suffer from more than women, and that's narcissism.
Mm.
So narcissistic disorder is something based on statistics that men suffer from more than women, because narcissism is often tied to your ego. You know, and what and it's we witnessed that. We witnessed that in full color with that ex president we had. We saw what we had, narcissism on full display.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I think that um, yes, to answer your question.
With that narcissism, do you think society kind of perpetuates that? Even how they start treating a man child as a little baby, as a boy.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, okay.
Absolutely, because we're as men, we're taught to flex in the mirror, show our muscles, protect our emotions. Don't talk. Don't you cry.
Right.
All that stuff. And one of the things that I didn't, I made sure that I didn't tell my son that. I didn't tell my son. I taught my son how to be tough. I taught my sons how to be strong men and all that stuff. But I wouldn't dare tell them don't express yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because when you become hardened, you become a problem for yourself and other people.
Good point. Good point. What is you described something called transitional relationship therapy? What is that in a nutshell?
That's that therapy that takes place before you transition into another relationship. So you coming out of one and you taking time for yourself to understand what it is, who you are, where you are, what has happened, and you saying, okay, let me deal with me, before I go into something else. Because the reality is, God wants you to be in healthy relationships. He really does. He really do. He wants you to be, because he understands. Once again, we were not created to be independent. We were created to be interdependent. And so we need relationships to grow. So transitional relationship therapy is that space between relationship, one relationship and the other, that you take time out to say, okay, now I'm about to transition, but prior to me transition, let me get therapy to help me grow and become.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Um, some of the issues that plague the relationships are we talked about a lot of them: infidelity, selfishness, narcissism, and control. And these concepts are interrelated. Do you believe it's reasonable for a person to think that if they are in a relationship, they will be faithful for the duration of their life? You've already answered that, and you answered it. I was thinking about the age component because someone young is not always immature, but sometimes. And you basically said no if they have premarital counseling and if they
Well,
continue counseling. Go ahead.
well, what I said is that it all depends on your level of maturity and what you attach yourself to. If you attach yourself to wise counsel, you're listening to wise counsel, you're open to that. That takes maturity to do that. Because the reality is this: you're going to be challenged. I don't care who you are. Relationships are going to challenge. You're going to wake up, and I tell couples this all the time. You're going to wake up in the middle of the night or whatever the morning, and you're going to look at your mate and say, "Why did I?" You're going to ask that question, "Why did I get married?" You're going to ask that proverbial question, "Why did I get married?" Which is natural, normal. You know what I'm saying? But if you in maturity, you'll come back to yourself, say, "This is why I got married. I got married because I love this person." Blah blah. Because we make those statements out of anger, out of distrust, out of pain. We make that statement. There's not one couple that I've interviewed that I've talked to that never asked that, why I'm married, and all that stuff. So you're going to ask that question. Marriage is challenging. Life is challenging. But how my grandfather used to always say something I didn't understand until I got old. Unfortunately, I didn't understand until I got old. He used to always say, "Son, count the costs. Count the costs." And we don't never count the costs. And so now, my desire is to be married one again. My desire is to be married again. I want to be married. And I believe I'm going to be, an amazing husband. I really believe that. And I think that some of the things that's gonna help is that I don't never want to forget the pain of what I've been through. You know, I don't want to relive it, but I don't want to forget it. And I think that that's maturity too. You're embracing where you've been and what you've experienced in life, and you are allowing that to help you and serve as a reminder or a guidepost to where you don't want to go or what you don't want to be. And at some point, as you grow, you allow what has happened to you to remind you of what not to do and
Hmm.
where not to go.
And to be a better man or a better woman.
Exactly.
You mentioned that you have a new book on the horizon, and I don't know if you can tell us, but what's that book gonna be about? Just
Well,
wondering.
what this book is called "Face It." Defeating what you've been afraid to deal with.
Ooh.
And so it's just a book that just talks about us facing various things, trauma, fears, situations. Because a lot of times we don't want to face what's before us. We believe that if we just pray about it, close our eyes, turn around, throw some money on the altar, run this way, it's just going to disappear. And some things God is telling you, no, you need to face it. You need to deal with it. It's not going anywhere until you face it and you deal with it, because the Lord made us a promise. He said we are more than conquerors. And so, we ain't fighting for victory. We're fighting from victory. Because the victory has already been won, we are winners. And so, I wrote this book because um, God gave it to me because it was something that was going on, some things that happened in my life, and the Lord was telling me, like, you face some more, some things that were greater than that were worse than that, and
Hmm.
you telling me you're afraid to face this. So, I think that's that's happening a lot. We're just afraid to face certain things in our lives.
When is that going to be released? Do you know? Do you have an idea?
Tentatively, maybe I'm looking for September at the latest.
Oh, good. So
Yeah,
you have to come back when that's out.
absolutely. You have me, I'm here. If your house
Perfect.
don't burn down.
Oh, you know, you know what? Wait.
You'll burn your house down. I'm good. I'm here. But please don't burn your house down. I want you to
Oh my gosh, that brought back memories. Anyway, where can we purchase your book? And give us some closing words too.
It's on Amazon.
Amazon?
Any book outlets you can purchase it on that.
And could you repeat the name of it for us again?
Ladies, Let's Talk: Relationship Real Talk from a Man's Point of View, a man's POV.
And that could be purchased on Amazon.
Yes.
Okay, you have given us so many nuggets of wisdom, but if you were to close out and give us some more nuggets, you've given me, I had to write down a few things, nuggets of wisdom. Close out and give us some nuggets of wisdom.
This is what I say to everyone. Life is difficult. We are ever evolving and ever changing, and things around us are doing the same. We carry within us the power to change our lives. God performs miracles every day. Every day. I'm always reminded about the man who sat at the pool of Bethesda, paralyzed, unable to move. And then when the Lord showed up at that pool, he looked at him and he said, "Do you want to be made whole?" And the first thing he opens his mouth and says, he gives all these excuses. He said, "I do. But every time I get ready to get down into the water, someone jumps in before me." He understood the power of relationship. But what he believed is that he needed a relationship at that moment to define him and help him to be whole. And the reality, what God was trying to show him is that, listen, I can perform miracles, but in order for miracles to happen, the divine has to come together with human interaction, or there has to be human responsibility, or some level of human engagement, that we have to do our part. We often pray about, Lord, send a miracle. But, people don't understand that miracles happen when human beings said, "God, I'm willing to do my part." Mm-hmm. And at some point, if you ever want to see things change in your life, if you ever want to get up off the mat, your mat of affliction, or your mat of being paralyzed or stuck in the same place, when God asks you that question, do you want it? You got to say yes. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as you say yes to him, all he's going to do is say a word over your life, and you're going to be able to get up. And when you get up, never return back to that place. Because Jesus tells this man to do something very powerful. He says, take up your mat. He said, pick that mat up. And that was important. He didn't say leave the mat there. He said, take it, pick it up. And the reason he said pick that mat up is because he wanted that man to understand that, listen, I'm going to deliver you from what you were. And I'm not only going to deliver you from what you were, being a paralytic, but I'm also going to deliver you from the place that you were paralyzed in. Mm-hmm. And he said, and the reason you're taking up your mat is so that you would never return here again. So at some point, we have to do our part. We have to trust God. God is always going to do his part. He's faithful to that. But we have to do our part. And sometimes doing our part is meaning that we have to cut off some relationships. We have to stop making excuses. We have to let go of the things that have been traumatic to our life, which is sometimes difficult. What was interesting is that, the people that he hung around were just like him. And so when God delivered him from that place, he also delivered him from people who were like him, who used to be like him. And so I just encourage everyone to, do your part, and God will send a miracle. He's going to send a miracle, and you're going to see your life transformed and changed beyond measure.
Oh, you gave me that word because I'm waiting for that miracle. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor C. We appreciate it. And wow, we can't wait to have you back. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been so good. That was a word. That was a word right there. Don't forget at 9 p.m. the Man Cave is going to come on. You got the 4 guys that's going to talk candidly. Until next week, be blessed. We'll be back, and we'll have Pastor C back on in September. I'm hoping his book is done. Signing off. Have a blessed week.
Be blessed.
Camped out at home for COVID? Join us, Indie TV, where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.